And then I just, went blank, and that was the end of my like debate. And it was really, really sad for me because people were just like, just get off the stage. Hey everyone, what's up? My name is Jesse Forrester. I'm 21 years old and I'm from Kenya, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm what I like to call a green tech pioneer because I believe in environmental businesses that have a profit aspect to them. So I think that social profit, social benefit and profit are not mutually exclusive. What self esteem means to me is that you know that your worth as an individual, as a person, is coming from you, and that whatever social contracts that you signed, so this could be, I always smile in public, or I do this, you think for yourself individually, and you know that, whoever you are as an individual is what you prioritize, because that's super important and that's what makes someone unique. And so that brings out your self-esteem as an individual and as a person. So I like to center a lot on individualism and what that means, because I think that and self-esteem are closely linked. If you're trying to be someone else, you're never going to have self-esteem, but only when you take that understanding and sit down and accept your flaws and understand that perfection is overrated, then you get what's being a person who has self-esteem. So that's what self-esteem means to me. So there's some moments where I felt a little bit less confident, actually a lot. And for those of you that know me, for those that are hopefully going to know me, I am a public speaker. I've given a TED talk. I participate in panels. I recently, hosted something called the Untitled Prize. I also hosted, Acon on stage. And that's not how it always used to be. And so when people look at me, they're like, oh my God, this guy is amazing and he's able to do all these things and meet all these people. But truth be told, I really wasn't like that before. If you listen to me clearly or quite well, you hear sometimes I have a lisp. And when I was starting my public speaking journey, it was very difficult for me to express myself because I was very self-conscious. And I had this thing called a heavy tongue. And sometimes you can still hear it, so I had to practice and train myself. And so again in secondary school, I decided, let me just try and push myself outside my comfort zone. And I decided to join the debate club. Yeah. Smart move for someone who's an introvert and actually, has speech defects. So my first speech was absolutely embarrassing. I went up in front of a group of like 6 guys. It was an all boys secondary school, and I said, "Hi, my name is Jesse Forrester," and then I just, went blank, and that was the end of my like debate. And it was really, really sad for me because people were just like, just get off the stage, and I was almost laughed out. And so it really, really, impacted me as a person in my journey towards bettering myself and becoming a public speaker. And so, obviously since then there's been a lot that's happened, but there were very many times I felt distinctly, sort of belittled or not able to, and that really almost put me in a position where I didn't push forward and try and achieve what I needed to achieve, and to actually push myself to really care about me and not what other people's opinions were. So the moment where I really, really felt confident, I would say, was fast forward. So when I did debate earlier, I was not the best public speaker and I froze the first time. And I really, really practiced, and it was incredibly difficult. I had a pen under my tongue and I tried to speak to make sure my words were more fluid. So many methods of training that I just put in, and it was very tricky for me to get that point where I could say, now I can speak on stage. So what happened is that we had this national competition called the Great Debaters Contest, and I became fluent in speaking, and all my hard work paid off. And so I joined the team and I pushed, and consistently, there's also one thing that I was back in the day in the debate club, or the debate team, is where I would not feel like I was good enough to speak. And so one day, one of the other teammates, who was actually not as good as me, came and said, "Hey Jesse, I want to take your spot." And I just said, "Okay, cool," because I was scared and didn't have enough self-esteem to put myself out there and actually speak on this stage. And I came back, and we came back home, and that debate that he participated in, he was so close to making the team tank. We actually almost lost, and that was the regional level, and it was really shocking for me. And I went and I spoke to my sister and my people back at home, and they were like, you just can't do this thing where you feel scared and you don't take the opportunity, because the opposite of courage is not fear. The opposite of courage is indifference. And so me being very indifferent and not wanting to put myself in that position was me not having the courage to actually go out there and speak. And so to answer the question about when do I feel most confident is when we were actually in the finals. So we made it through the finals, and I went there, I gave up a really great speech. I was quite logical, I used emotions and gestures, and my face was lighting up, and I was really moving the crowd. And so it was just us, and the grand prize was about $1,000, which when we were in high school, that's a lot of cash, if I remember correctly, and a couple of tablets, and I think this was back in 2014, and tablets were just the in thing, so I just had this massive tablet if we would win, and I just pictured it, and they'd even put Wi-Fi in the school. How far we've come. So that point in time, I was super excited, and I felt really confident despite the fact that I was shaking. And so for me, it was not, again, courage is not the opposite of fear. There's a saying that says, feel the fear and do it anyway. So that was when I felt the most confident. And did we actually win in the final? No, we came second place. But still in that moment, I knew I had reached the pinnacle, or I had actually achieved what I set out to do when I joined the debate club in Form 1, and now I was in Form 2 and second term here, speaking on a national debate competition in the final. It was incredible. I couldn't believe that was me. So the role of social media on my self-esteem isn't really that prevalent. So one thing I do subscribe to is a philosophy called Stoicism. It's basically where you focus on the things that you can control. And when you're on Instagram, for example, and you see all these guys killing it, and you see this lifestyle, you hear about billionaires and millionaires, or even you see some of your friends, because sometimes the people we envy most are the people we know. And you feel like, X and Y is doing so much better than me, and at one point I was better than them, and you start focusing on the outward. And I say, for me, it's more of like, okay, what is in my locus of focus? I sound like a motivational speaker, but what can I actually control? And then I use that to actually push and propel myself. So I don't really look outside at people in any way. And maybe what I do look for when I am is, okay, someone did something like this, or stories of people who've been resilient in the face of, disaster and stuff. And so sometimes I read stories of people that struggled and made it, and say everything, if I'm going through something, will pass. So yeah, but that's what I really try and focus on, that sort of stoicism or stoic mentality, where I just say, I only can focus on the things I can control. That's my attitude. That's how I respond to what people tell me. That's where I am. And I also practice a lot of gratitude, because sometimes it's so easy to just take what you have for granted. And we understand that there is privilege that we have, and it's just in a sense where you've got clothes, you can eat food, you have a phone, you can access social media to begin with. That itself is a privilege that some 1 billion people may not have the access to. And so many times you're actually more blessed than you actually know, and it's very good to remind yourself that every time you feel like, oh, why don't I have car? And some people can't even aspire to that. So what rating would I give my younger self in terms of self-esteem? And here, younger self, I'm defining the time I was in high school. So between the time I was 13, 14, all the way until 18. And I would say a 4.5, because I wasn't very, very confident on the onset, and it just kept rising. So by the time I was 18, my hair was too big. Now I'm just playing, but I actually had a chance to grow myself and become more confident. And I remember this one time. So in primary school, I was never a sports guy. I'm a huge nerd. I just watch Nat Geo. Yeah, I was one of those. But in high school, I decided to join rugby, and I've always been one of the bigger guys, like body wise, and in my class in terms of like just being tall and you know being generally wide. And when I joined rugby, I didn't have the sort of basic sports skill that my colleagues or friends had. And so it was one of those things where I was learning a few things, like, hand-eye coordination. Not that I couldn't like throw a ball, but, I just wanted to be more of a sportsman when I joined. And it was pretty difficult at first. In rugby, there are two sort of like people who are called the forwards and people who are called the backs. So the forwards tend to be bigger, slower guys, and the backs tend to be more athletic, more fit, could run for longer distances. And so I always aspired to be a back, and I had sort of like the fitness and the stamina and everything, but I didn't have the skill. And so it was very difficult when I finally told the coach, I want to be this person. And I was actually put in that position. And that whole fake it till you make it thing, but absolutely not a thing. I totally flunked. And so in rugby, you throw the ball and it goes backwards and you just keep running. So we'd form something called a deep, where, players line up in a diagonal fashion, like going backwards if you watch rugby. And I remember the fly half, who was the guy who picks the ball, was throwing it to me when I was playing as a center. And so this guy's job is basically to ensure that, they coordinate runs and they make tackles. And I couldn't catch the ball at high pace. And I realized, whoa, this is actually something that really hammered my self-esteem. I didn't end up playing rugby all the way through, but it really taught me important lessons, like even that teamwork and just putting myself out there, even if I feel stupid. So it's mostly been things like that where I have like different experiences in maybe sports or speech, the debate, public speaking, that have really, really helped me come out of my place and just feeling that rush of embarrassment and stupidity when you're doing something that you're completely, terrible at. But then there are people who are like so much better and they're your friends. So yeah, I would really rate my confidence as a younger person at about like 4.5. If I could go back to my younger self, I guess I would say that keep pushing and putting yourself in very uncomfortable positions. Learn that many times you do want to fit in, and that's okay. But that's a normal feeling, but you are made for so much more than just to fit in. You can lead the pack if you wanted to. And that your strengths are only as great as your imagination and your dedication and will. So make sure that you ruthlessly execute on what you want to do, and you will get where you need to go. Be always kind to people who struggle with the same things that you struggled with, or take care of those that don't have the opportunities that you have had, and show kindness overall to even the people that don't necessarily do you right. And yeah, brother, just keep winning. One word that describes my self-confidence would be ambitious. I think every time I tell people about my goals, they're always like, "Oh man, they're so big," and I'm just like, "Yeah." One guy I really like, his name is Ray Dalio. He talks about having, if your ambitions match your effort and a sustained ability to get where you want to go, then you will be successful. So I think I am super ambitious in terms of the things I want to achieve, and I want to consistently put my effort. So that's what I would say describes my self-confidence. I'm an ambitious person. Well, my environment did give me the opportunity, and my parents as well, to express myself. I think that one thing that I really like to recall is when I was in Form 1, which is the beginning of our secondary school here in Kenya. I was previously an introvert, which is contrary to what many of my friends believe. and I was trying to be, actually I decided to run for office and became a class captain or a team captain, and I was not a sports player, but I have the physique of a sports player. And so people thought, oh wow, this guy is great. And it was a real test of my leadership, because I'd never been in this position. I put myself in an uncomfortable position to, take up a leadership role, and especially in sports, which I wasn't very good at the time. Yeah, to be honest, actually still not that good. But yeah, I mean, for me, that was a position where, I'd come back, talk to my mom specifically about it and say, hey, this didn't go too well. And she'd be like, this is who you are, this is where you need to be. I also remember that, for me, as beginning my leadership journey and experience, I had someone else that was more open and more expressive about them being leaders than I was. And so it was very difficult to have them in my team constantly, undermining my leadership, undermining what I could say to other people and make me follow. And what I was unable to do was challenge them and come out of myself. And it actually made me feel like I could retreat more within myself. So as much as my parents and the schools I went to and my friends were very supportive of who I was and who I am as an individual, the issue was, how do I actually stand up for myself? How do I remain comfortable in who I am as a person? And so that was really kind of the environment I was in, trying to discover who I was in my younger self in Form 1. What are the things I love most about myself? So I would say it's tricky. I find it like when people are complimenting themselves, it's tough. I think one thing I do like about myself now is that one thing I do a lot is I introspect. So I sit down and I sometimes do meditation, and I just like sit quietly with my thoughts and, let the uncomfortableness like set in, and, feeling like you're uneasy because there's so much silence and your brain always wants to, or your body always wants to twitch and do something. So that's something that I like about myself. I'm able to center myself and focus. And sometimes when you're in a conversation with someone and you later think like a week or like even a few days later or hours that, oh man, I should have said this in this conversation, or I could have just responded like this, etc. I'm much better at doing that now because I reflect on conversations I have. And yeah, I think one thing also I'm really happy about myself is that I am actually living and trying to be that person I want to be. It sounds super cliche, but I try, consistently to show kindness. If someone has a spat with me or if we have a fight, I listen to what they say, I evaluate whether it's true or not, then I decide if I'm going to take that up as, gospel and change, or if I say, that's them, they're having a bad day, that's a prerogative. I think that was a justified reaction. So I really like that I'm able to like just be measured and all of that, yeah.
How far, guys? Thank you for watching another episode of I Make Mad Sense Stories. If you're inspired by this story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment to join the conversation and share with a family or friend. Also hit the notification button so you're alerted whenever we drop a new episode. Thank you for watching. God bless. My name is Ari or Ifyok Adebanjo, and I make mad sense.